Bashir later tweeted, quote, "The anti-Semitic attack reported Saturday night outside the Jewish Center is an outrage. This hate has absolutely no place in the Commonwealth as we build a better Kentucky that is fair and equitable for all of our people." Well, joining us now is Rabbi Shlomo Litvin of the Chabad Blue Cross chapter, coming to us live from Lexington, Kentucky. Rabbi Litvin, happy holiday despite it all. I think most important, what can you tell us about the individual who was injured in this attack, his condition, and also the condition of your community in the wake of this incident?
So Baruch Hashem, the worst case scenario, which would be the leg that was run over was broken, was found not to be the case. He's recuperating at home. He has severe muscle damage, and he can use Tehillim and mitzvahs. Tefillin is his favorite mitzvah. He had asked community members to put on tefillin in his honor, and his Hebrew name is Anshel Ruven Ben Sarah. But thank God he's recuperating at home, and over the coming days, as the swelling goes down, we'll have his injuries.
Okay. And what about your community? You know, anybody who knows Chabad knows you could find the Chabad house pretty much anywhere. But I would say most people are not even aware that there was a Jewish community per se in Lexington, Kentucky. How is the community dealing with the fallout from this incident?
It's certainly difficult. This is the third incident in a month in Lexington. There were flyers several weeks ago, and the sign outside the Chabad at the University of Kentucky Jewish Student Center had been damaged in a vandalism attack 2 weeks ago. So the community is hurt to see a member of their community who's a leading member of the community hospitalized at a menorah lighting at an event that was a response to the recent vandalism at the University of Kentucky. So there's a lot of fear. I had to explain to my children, the oldest of who is 5, why there were police at a menorah lighting. I don't think any parent in 2020 should have to do that.
Right. And let me ask you, you mentioned this is a series of incidents. Has the Chabad house, and maybe, I don't know what other Jewish institutions are there, stepped up security because of the situation, or even prior to it because of the incidents that you're discussing?
We certainly have. The Lexington Police and the FBI local office have been extremely supportive and asking how they can help. Chabad has installed new cameras around the center, and we've had programs every night afterwards, although the plan had been to only light the menorah that one night as we have lightings across the state. Instead, we've lit the menorah outside the Chabad UK Jewish Student Center every night this week, and there's been police presence. And there have been an outcry from the broader non-Jewish population asking how they can help. There were many volunteers. We live in a state where people take their personal security very seriously, who have offered to come and stand outside Chabad if it's needed. And we are absolutely being vigilant to do all we can to prevent such instances in the future.
Actually, let me ask you about relations with the general community, because again, as I noted, I would say Kentucky in general, and I guess Lexington is not known as a center of Jewish life necessarily in the United States. I imagine the community is quite small. How have relations been with the general community there outside of these incidents?
Lexington has a very old Jewish community. We've had Jews here for years. There's recently a Netflix show which took place in Lexington, Kentucky. And as you pan the items in the store, there's Kedem grape juice. And many people said, are there Jews in Lexington, Kentucky? So the community is an old community, and the community is strong. We are proudly still having events. Now, it is tough, but the idea that this at all in any way represents the attitude of the broader community, both in Lexington and the surrounding areas in Kentucky, is absolutely false. There was actually a Jewish newspaper, a Jewish online source that published the story, and with the headline, "Typical Kentucky." And I reached out to them and I asked them to change that headline. You mentioned that the governor spoke out, our Attorney General, Daniel Cameron, spoke out immediately. Treasurer Allison Ball spoke out and called me personally to express her concern. The Secretary of State's office spoke out. The mayor spoke out. Every public official and hundreds of private people reached out that this does not represent them. I don't think this is indicative of Kentucky at all. Sadly, it's indicative of a rising culture both around the United States and around the world. But such hateful acts do not represent this community, the broader community, in any way.
Right, let's talk about that. You say that community rising around the world. We have seen a turn toward extremists. It covers all at both ends of the political spectrum. What specifically are the concerns in Kentucky? What have you seen there that maybe gives rise to concern that these kind of incidents not only are happening, but will happen again, unfortunately, in the future?
I'll tell you my greatest concern. I saw locally many organizations speak out after this happened, the university, global organizations. But 3 weeks ago, when there was just vandalism against the center, those same voices didn't speak out. A few weeks earlier, when there were pamphlets, those voices didn't speak out. Many people have asked me, am I surprised? I'm horrified by what happened. I'm pained by what happened, but I'm not surprised because too often these smaller actions don't get called out. When there was a speaker, IDF soldier came to speak at UK, and students were yelling out, "Long live the Intifada," and "From the river to the sea," both calls for the murder of Jews. And the broader community didn't have a response for that. When hateful words are spoken, when hateful flyers are posted, and they don't get responded to, it encourages those who want to carry out hateful actions. So the answer is to call out not only these major events that we all come together when something like this happens, when someone gets injured, but it's also important to call out the smaller things because it's laying the stepping stones to violent incidences like this week.
Right. Briefly, Rabbi Litvin, have you been told, I'm not on the case itself, is there any update? Have the police told you that they have any leads on the individual who was responsible driving that car in this particular incident?
The focus right now is trying to find as much CCTV footage as possible to try and get as many identifying details as possible. We do have cameras that we have more cameras now, but we had cameras up at Chabad, but unfortunately it didn't catch a license plate. So the police are right now concentrating on trying to find more CCTV of the car, but they are searching on this. The FBI is involved, and they're taking this extremely seriously.
All right. Well, Rabbi Shlomo Litvin of Chabad of the Bluegrass, we wish you and your community well, and we wish you a happy Hanukkah holiday, of course.
I do want to mention one more aspect of the story.
Briefly.
Following the attack, the man who was injured insisted that the menorah be lit outside the center before he went to the hospital.
Okay.
And that is our community's attitude following that the menorah will stay lit.
All right. That's the spirit. That certainly reflects the spirit of the Hanukkah holiday. No question about that. Shlomo Litvin, thank you for joining us.